Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare.
Jaya Kodanikai, Maya Poshashi, Kodanikai, Maya Poshashi. Jaya Kodanikai, Maya Poshashi, Kodanikai, Maya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Gurudev. Iskon Guruvinda ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Shishikol Nitai Maya Poshashi ki jai, Granthra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Is there anything on the calendar today? No. So we've got some people coming tomorrow from Manchester, and we'll need apples done. So do you know who would normally take care of that? Okay. Ishan says he'll do some if need be. So do some Namla, do some Lay Prabhu. Reading from Srila Prabhupada Leela Mrita. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. This is the last instruction. In response to Srila Prabhupada's call, the 23 GBC men again began gathering in Vrindavan. They arrived heavy-hearted, yet on coming before Srila Prabhupada, they were pleased to give him progress reports on their preaching on his behalf. Srila Prabhupada was happy to hear their reports and was as encouraging as ever to his leaders, despite his condition. Actually, Prabhupada's calling the GBC men together had been so they could chant for him. Now more than ever, he wanted the medicine of the holy name, not of the doctors. Interesting, eh? The GBC have been elected to organize, but their main talent or strength lies in their abilities to chant Hare Krishna. When he heard that his friend Dr. Ghosh was coming to Vrindavan to open a clinic and that he could prescribe treatment, he refused the offer. These doctors will come and give something to try and save, he said. I don't want to be saved. Dr. Ghosh may come for the clinic. He wants to develop and offer my treatment. Krishna asked if they could at least call in some local Vrindavan doctors. No, said Prabhupada. Let us take your advice for Kirtan only. Krishna agreed that Kirtan was best because in that way they were pleading for Krishna's help. Better you don't pray to Krishna to save me, said Srila Prabhupada. Let me die now. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7. chapter entitled Hiranyakashipu's Plan to Become Immortal. Text 21, okay. Text 21. Tatas ta ashisha sava. Tatas ta ashisha sava. Dadami asura pangava. Dadami asura pangava. Matasya te hi amatasya. Matasya te yamatasta. Darshanam nafalam mama. Darshanam nafalam mama. Tatasta ashisha sava. Dadamai masura pangava. Matasya tehi matasya. Darshanam nafalam mama. Tatasta ashisha sava. Dadama pungava. Matasya te yamatasya. Darshanam nafalam mama. Bolo. Tatasta ashisha sava. Dadama pungava. Matasya te yamatasya. Darshanam nafalam mama. Tatasta ashisha sava. Ame asura pungava. Ladies. Okay. So we are reading the translation. Ta-ta! Because of this, te, unto you, ashisha, benedictions, sava, all, dadami, I shall give, asura pungava, O best of the asuras, matasya, of one who is destined to die, te, such as you, he, indeed, amatasya, of one who does not die, darshanam, the audience, na, not, afalam, without results, mama, my. Translation. O best of the asuras, for this reason, I am not prepared to give you all benedictions according to your desire. I belong to the celestial world of demigods who do not die like human beings. Therefore, although you are subject to death, your audience with me will not go in vain. Responsibly, please. O best of the asuras, for this reason, I am not prepared to give you all benedictions according to your desire. I belong to the celestial world of demigods who do not die like human beings. Therefore, although you are subject to death, your audience will not go in vain. Oh yeah, sorry, with me. Prabhupada ki jai. It appears that human beings and asuras are subject to death, whereas demigods are not. The demigods who reside with Lord Brahma in Satyaloka go to Vaikuntha in their present bodily constructions at the time of dissolution. Therefore, although Hiranyakashipu had undergone severe austerities, Lord Brahma predicted that he had to die. He could not become immortal or even gain equal status with the demigods. The great austerities and penances he had performed for so many years could not give him protection from death. This was foretold by Lord Brahma. Shri Chaitanya Manobhastam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadava Vadantika Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktarinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Vanchakalpatruvishcha kripa sindhubhyevacha paditanam bhavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. So Lord Brahma is continuing on. So he said, so Lord Brahma is saying he's been conquered by Hiranyakashipu because of his severe austerities. And then he says, even Brigu did not perform such austerities, nor will anyone in the future be able to do so. So it seems that this was even more austere than Dhruva. Dhruva Maharaj was doing his austerities for 6 months, but Hiranyakashipu was doing them for 100 years. And Dhruva still had his body. Hiranyakashipu's body had been eaten by ants and insects. All that was left with it was the skeleton and the life air flying around inside the bones. So extreme austerity. And Lord Brahma can make announcements like this because he's aware of the past, the present, and the future. So he's aware already that Hiranyakashipu is going to get killed, and he's giving him the benedictions anyway. But he can see the bigger picture. Which is a symptom of somebody in the mode of goodness, that all the gates of the body are illuminated with knowledge. So he sees the ramifications of his activities. He sees the reaction for his activities. Now they're putting pictures on cigarette boxes, and they show you a person in a very unfortunate situation, some really heavy disease or some really horrible thing happens to him because he's been smoking and has to put people off. But they say chief health medical inspectors, and as soon as you say that, your average person is gonna blow a raspberry. Anything to do with chief health medical authorities, nobody likes authority, so you show everybody that you're warning them about it, but at the same time you say it's because of this authority. And then people immediately reject that and then buy the cigarettes so they can keep selling the cigarettes. Nobody can get on their case because they showed you what was going to happen to you if you did smoke it. But they did it in such a way that it didn't put you off. Like they did with Guinness. Do you remember what they said about Guinness? They said Guinness is good for you. I had this whole advertising. It went on for years. Guinness is good for you. So people were buying Guinness, but it wasn't good for them at all. And eventually it was medically proved that Guinness isn't good for you. So then they changed the advertisement. And you know what they said instead? Guinness is good for you. Clever, eh? Anyway, Lord Brahma is aware of what is going to happen, and so he's going along with it. And somebody that's in the mode of goodness is aware of the consequences of his action. Whereas somebody in the mode of passion is only fixed on the goal, which is what Hiranyakashipu was. Although Hiranyakashipu was also very much in the mode of ignorance because he was torturing his body. That's a symptom of somebody in the mode of ignorance. And they get great pleasure from doing that. Which is interesting, isn't it? They have a problem now with people self-harming. Imagine if they said to the kids, listen, boys and girls, I think you need to get out the mode of ignorance, shift through the mode of passion, and come into the mode of goodness. And then you'll be very aware that whatever you're doing, what the reaction is going to be for what you're doing, and the reaction is not going to be good for you. So, Prabhupada saying in the purport, it appears that human beings and asuras are subject to death, whereas demigods are not. The demigods who reside with Lord Brahma and Satyaloka go to Vaikuntha in their present bodily constructions at the time of the dissolution. So there's a description in the second canto that there's a partial devastation at the end of every day of Lord Brahma, and part of the universe fills up with water, and then when Lord Brahma gets up the next day, that part of the universe is again manifested. And then there's a big devastation where all the planetary systems eventually go in the water, even Brahmaloka. And the demigods in the high planetary systems, they start performing austerities and hopping up from one planetary system to the next to go to Brahmaloka, and then from Brahmaloka to go back to Vaikuntha. Interesting that their present body construction can be the same one that they retain. Because if you're achieving your swarup, then your swarup would be independent of what your form was in the material world. Interesting, yeah? So it seems that you can have some influence on where you go and what shape you have according to the sadhana that you practice. Because in the spiritual world, they don't practice sadhana. They just are whoever they are, and they're happy being that forever and ever and ever. But in the material world, you can focus on what you would like to be, perform sadhana, and you can achieve that. Interesting, yeah? So it would seem, in some ways, it's advantageous, more advantageous to be in the material world than it is to be in Vaikuntha, in terms of your ability to determine where you want to go. Therefore, although Hiranyakashipu had undergone severe austerities, Lord Brahma predicted that he had to die. He could not become immortal or even gain equal status with the demigods. So there's an attempt now to go to the moon. Some say they have been the moon. And some of the astronauts say that they didn't go to the moon because you have to go through the Van Allen belt. And the Van Allen belt is a tricky one because unless the spaceship is 3 foot thick with lead, then you don't get through the Van Allen belt. And if you go from light to shade on the moon, there's no cushioning effect like here where we have an atmosphere. So the shade is -247 and the light is 2000 degrees centigrade. So if you happen to be in your spacesuit going from light to shade, then the glass visor would shatter into a million pieces. Such extreme temperature change. Anyway, something to think about, because if they didn't go to the moon, then they definitely didn't go to Mars. So what's going on there? Anyway, what they're trying to do is push their way in and say, okay, guys, we're coming now. Any Martians, move out the way. The Earthlings are coming now. We've trashed our planet, so we're going to start on yours. But even if you did manage to stay up there and build yourself a Tesco supermarket and wherever else they would like to have on Mars, you can't consider yourself a demigod just like Hiranyakashipu, although he performed many austerities, because he didn't have the piety, he was not allowed the body of it or the status of a demigod. So just forcing your way in, gate crushing a planet, doesn't mean you've achieved the Sukriti. And the moon is so many. The sun is one planetary system higher. Sunday, and then Monday, moon is higher. Tuesday, Venus is higher again. So I'm not sure which day Mars is. Saturn is, yeah. What's Friday? No, Tuesday is Venus. Tuesday is Venus. Tuesday, I think. And then, yeah. But as the days go on, eventually you get to Saturday, which is the furthest away, Saturn. And then you come back to the sun, Sunday, which is the closest. So moon day is the moon is further away. So it's a higher planetary system. It's higher than the sun. People have a tremendous facility to enjoy themselves, and they don't die in the way that we do here on Earth, or the way that Hiranyakashipu will eventually die. So no matter how much you try to thwart material nature, you cannot escape the law of karma. You only get whatever you're due. So Lord Brahma predicted that he had to die. So not such a profound prediction, really. Everyone knows they're going to have to die. But probably for Hiranyakashipu, that was alarming, that after doing all that austerity, getting all those benedictions, and then being told, but you're going to die anyway. Anyway, he was a good old, even though, like with Karna, when Karna realized he'd been cursed and there was some nasty things going to happen to him, he just shrugged his shoulders and said, okay, well, let's get on with it. And he just pushed on anyway with determination. So you have to give Hiranyakashipu that. He's got a bit of pluck. That even though he's getting all these benedictions and he's done so much austerity still, Lord Brahma is telling him that eventually it'll all be futile. Of course, that's also the stubbornness of the atheistic person, is that he won't listen to good reason. He's just fixed on what he wants, on his plan, his agenda, and he's not got any room for any advice. So an inability to hear. Lord Brahma predicted that he had to die and he could not become immortal or even gain the status equal with the demigods. So the demigods are interesting in that not only do they have the benediction of not being subject to death like we are, but also if they can make their way up from the planetary system that they're in to Lord Brahma in Satyaloka, then they can go to Vaikuntha Loka in their present bodily constructions at the time of dissolution. So it's very advantageous, isn't it? You can imagine in the heavenly planetary systems, to some degree they're enjoying themselves, but they're also intelligent enough to understand that it's not forever. And they're also making plans to elevate themselves to Brahmaloka, Satyaloka, and from there go to Vaikuntha Loka in their presently bodily constructions. So that's interesting, isn't it? So it's not only on the earth that we accrue karma or sukriti, we're also on the higher planets as well, and also on the low planets as well. If ISKCON spreads like Srila Prabhupada, your fame is known throughout the three worlds. So if his fame is known throughout the three worlds, then that means there are books in the hellish planets as well, and preaching going on, and people have the opportunity to elevate themselves. And the universe is like a big game of snakes and ladders. If you go on the snake, when you die, you go down. If you go on the ladder when you die, then you go up. So the board is the middle planetary system is where you're accruing your karma, and then you go up or you go down. And it's more difficult. Once you're down, then it's more difficult because you're more distracted by suffering. And when you go up, it's more difficult because you're more distracted by enjoyment. And even here in the middle planetary system, where things are quite moderate, there's not that much enjoyment and there's not that much suffering, because eventually you just die because you can't take it anymore. But even that is a huge distraction from practicing spiritual life. What to speak of the same thing magnified. The body can only take so much, but in the hellish planetary systems, the body is subtle, so it doesn't die. You can be pushing it around, stretching it, chopping it, squishing it up, and it just comes back again for more punishment. So there you go. Great austerities and penances have been performed for many years, but they could not give him protection from death. So it's interesting that he got some merit because he'd voluntarily performed the austerities. But when the living entity goes to the hellish planets, he has to undergo very, very severe austerities. But then he doesn't get any merit because it's involuntarily that they're forced upon him. So if you take on hardship voluntarily, then there's benefit there. But if you're just suffering involuntarily, then there's not so much benefit there. So for the devotee, he embraces Tatena Kampam Shishukshamano. He embraces all the difficulties, the calamities, and he trains his mind to see these as the special mercy of the Lord, and he tries to understand. As soon as he understands whatever the lesson is he's supposed to learn, then that lesson is finished, and he can move on to the next lesson. But if he doesn't learn whatever the lesson was he was supposed to learn, and he fights it and blames others, then he has to come back and go through the same thing again. So the intelligent thing is to think, okay, what's this lesson I'm supposed to be learning, so I can move on to the next one. And if we can learn the lessons, if we can preempt what the lessons are going to be, because the lesson is always how to become more tolerant and how to become more humble. So if we just decide, well, I'm going to proactively be humble and tolerant, then Krishna doesn't have to teach us through the school of hard knocks. We can just learn instead by hearing, or at least by seeing. But the last result is by experience. If we can't even learn by experience, then it's going to take a long time to get out the material world. The school of hard knocks. So Lord Brahma is foretelling Hiranyakashipu that you're going to fail. And Hiranyakashipu is okay about that. Because the problem is, you see, Hiranyakashipu doesn't really accept authority. So he will accept authority to use the authority to manipulate the situation. But he won't really accept the authority as an authority because he thinks he knows better. So the authority says, okay, I have the power to give you these benedictions. I'll give you all these benedictions, but by the way, it's futile. But Hiranyakashipu is, okay, look, just give me the benedictions. I don't want to hear all this preaching nonsense. I've got my plan of what I'm going to do, and I'll be coming for you soon as well. So watch yourself. So this is how the demon processes information, and so it's detrimental to himself. He doesn't assimilate the information properly because of his pride. So it's interesting, isn't it, that if you're unless you're submissive and humble, then the process of hearing doesn't really work. You don't really hear. You can be speaking to somebody, but if they're not humble and submissive, then although it seems to make perfect sense to you what you're saying, as it goes through the other person's ear, it becomes all distorted and contorted, and it means something entirely different. And that's what needs to be taught. Actually, the educational system is failing if it does not teach the pupil how to hear. And you cannot hear unless you're humble. If you teach the student to become proud and to think he knows better than everybody else, then when they leave the educational system with their PhD, nobody can tell them anything. because they know better than everybody. Even if you're more experienced than them, or older than them, or more wise than them, if you haven't got a PhD, then you're not registered as somebody worth listening to. Even if you're running the entire universe and you have 4 heads. Any questions or comments?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. I'm wondering, Hiranyakashipu, that he performed so much austerity, and basically my question is, Jai, as devotees, how can we stay inspired to like perform austerities, to perform tapasya? How can we stay inspired to do that?
Well, the time it will take you to stay inspired, it's like saying, how much sugar candy do I have to eat before I become free from jaundice? Because the austerity isn't sweet because of the jaundiced condition. So obviously, the less sweet sugar candy you take, the slower the process is going to be. And if you decide, well, this is really, really sour, but it's obviously the thing that I need to take, because that's what they say, isn't it? The more foul the taste of the medicine, the better the medicine is, you know. So you kind of reason that one out. And then when it starts to taste sweet, then you're at this stage of Raganuga Bhakti. Raganuga is where it's becoming spontaneous now. And Ruchi is very strong. So the taste is very strong. You relish going on Harinam and chanting, whereas maybe in the beginning it was very austere, but now you're enlivened to go out. So there's some spontaneity coming now. Some taste is starting to come. And what was an austerity, you know, when we first go on Harinam, it's like very humiliating, you know, to be seen in a bed sheet with a shaved head and ringing a tambourine, and everyone's looking at us, and it's quite an ordeal. And then suddenly we break through that and we start to enjoy it and get a taste. So the more you apply yourself, the more intensely that you apply yourself with determination and knowledge, then the quicker you'll achieve this platform. At least we should come, Prabhupada wanted us at least to come to the Majjhima platform, which is where 75% of the anarthas we're now freed from. Because the Majjhima doesn't fall down. So the quicker we can become fixed up, then the less it will seem austere. It won't be austere anymore. It will be more austere to break the principles and miss the morning program and not do your service nicely. That will be more austere than doing it properly. So it won't seem like an austerity. It will seem more like an opportunity. And I mean that most sincerely, folks. Opportunity knocks. You wouldn't know about that, would you? Does that answer the question? Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Prabhu. I'm just wondering as well, like, we can also hear that austerity can make the heart hard.
Yeah.
So how can we like safeguard ourselves against like performing austerities and becoming like distracted, you know?
Well, the problem is with austerities is we'd sooner other people were performing the austerities than ourselves, or at the very least, if I'm going to have to perform these austerities, then everybody else should be performing these austerities as well. But the austerities is our business, and we're trying to cultivate loving relationships. We don't know where the devotees are, Apachat Sudarachara, we don't know. Krishna knows that where his determination is. It may seem to us the devotees like this or that, and we condemn them or we judge them. And then we think, well, some austerity should be inflicted upon them as a punishment or as a means of retribution. But we should only be concerned with our own self-realization. We should be thinking, for myself, I need to perform austerities. And for the others, well, that's up to themselves. That's between them and Krishna. If they think they can do it this way or that way. Unless we're their authority and we have to step in and say, Prabhu, this is not good, what you're doing now. This will be detrimental to you, to your spiritual life. But if we're not their authority, we just have a friendly relationship with them, then we should leave it at that. Keep a safe distance, a respectful distance, unless the person wants direction and wants to be encouraged to perform austerities. Then we leave them and their relationship with the Lord in the heart to direct and dictate them. And for ourselves, we want to be austere and strict, and we learn the art of making excuses for others. If somebody's late for Mangalati, we just make the excuse, oh, he probably didn't sleep much last night. And if somebody is eating 3 times as much as we do, then we make the excuse, oh, he probably works so hard. That's why he has to eat a hill of prasadam in the morning, because he needs all that nourishment to do the service. So we learn the art of making excuses for others. And for ourselves, we take on austerities which are sustainable, which help us. If they become unfavorable, then like one devotee wasn't eating much, and Srila Prabhupada said to him, I order you to eat. So he did. And he went quite chump. He became quite plump. And then he said to the devotee, now I order you not to eat. And he struggled with that. So our austerity should be that we want to please the spiritual master, and we want to follow what the spiritual master wants us to do. Not that we invent our own austerity, Oh, I've decided I'm going to chant 64 rounds and live in a tree in the forests of South Lanarkshire. And in that way I will achieve transcendental bliss. But it has to be according to what will please the spiritual master.
The lesson which Srila Prabhupada gave him, of course you mentioned that, but his words were, when you want to fast, then you can fast, but when the spiritual master wants you to fast, then you have difficulty doing it.
Oh, yeah.
So he's pointing out to him that his austerity should be under the order of the spiritual master. Otherwise it was for a different motivation. So he's pointing out. Because
Radhanath Maharaj makes the point as well. He says, you're fasting on Ekadashi and everyone else is eating. And he says, you're looking at them thinking, you fat pig, that's you're a disgrace, you're disgusting. He says, your body's fasting, but your ego's feasting.
Yeah, we hear also from the Shastra, human life is meant for austerity. But of course, there's austerity in different modes, isn't there? So we have, it's really what's the purpose behind it. And Prabhupada was not in favor of unnecessary austerities.
It's interesting, 3 different types of austerities. So an austerity for somebody in the mode of ignorance wouldn't be an austerity for somebody in the mode of goodness. Like somebody in the mode of goodness, to be dirty would be an austerity. But for somebody in the mode of ignorance, to be clean is an austerity. So if you go into the mode of goodness, then the austerity is satisfaction of the mind is an austerity. Like just being simple and being satisfied and being grateful for what you've got is an austerity. But in the mode of passion, people are always begrudging what they've got, thinking, oh, I wish I had a car like him. I wish I was like him. I wish I lived over where they were. I wish I was in this part of the country. They're always begrudging what they've got. So that's mode of passion. And then mode of ignorance, everything is an austerity. Even just to exist is an austerity. That's why they commit suicide. So that's like, suicide is just like the ultimate mode of ignorance. And, to commit suicide is austere, isn't it? I mean, for someone in the mode of goodness, to kill themselves, to finish off their existence is the most austere.
Yeah, and austerity in the mode of passion requires great endeavour for fruits which are limited and temporary.
Yeah, achihara. Achihari, isn't it? Achihara priyasascha. So priyasas is like really over endeavor, and achihara, collecting more than necessary. And it's also futile. It's also such a waste of time. It's like Hiranyakashipu's being told this is going to fail, and he makes so much endeavor. And people are the same. They're working really, really hard. I mean, what difference does it make if you die in a box that you own and you die in a box that you don't own? What difference does it make to the experience of dying? Nothing at all, right? You die, think at least you know. Well, at least this box I worked really hard to own will go to my sons who will trash it because they didn't have to work hard for it like I did, so they won't value it. So what's the point? I'll get a house with walls that are 15 foot thick, and then when I'm inside that, I'll live longer because death won't be able to come anywhere near me. That's what they're thinking. I mean, they're maybe not consciously thinking, but they're thinking somehow, if I can really establish myself in the material world and perform all these austerities, then I'll be free from the fear of death. But it's far from it.
Yeah, perhaps it could be seen in many different ways as well, that sometimes people form great austerities by keeping fit and eating healthy, etc. But it doesn't guarantee they're going to live a long life.
Yeah.
There's maybe more likelihood, but if their name's on the ticket, then it's the time's up.
Yeah.
So does that mean that one shouldn't try to be fit or keep good health? And just leave it to fate?
Yeah, I think there has to be a balance. Sri Ramaraj, he has to take all these different pills now. One for this, one for that, one for the next. And he said there's so many things he has to take, and then he has to do exercises, and he does swimming, and he does whatever is going to be favorable so that he can live longer and spend more time serving and spreading Krishna consciousness. So he's prepared to do whatever it takes to do that. So that's a wonderful example. To say, you can see with Srila Prabhupada, he's decided this is it now. He doesn't want any doctors. He wants to leave the devotees now. He's set everything up. He given them the books. He's given them the system. And now he wants them to take over, to take on the responsibility themselves. So we want to extend our lives to assist in Krishna consciousness if that's favorable and if that's what the Lord wants. If the Lord doesn't want that, he wants us to come back to him now or go somewhere else to help assist in spreading Krishna consciousness, then okay, we are compliant with that. Okay, whatever you want, you know. So I think it's good to keep our bodies healthy because it's also, we're a preaching movement, so people are looking and they say, how long you've been a devotee? 40 years. Okay, what has Krishna consciousness done for you? Well, it gives me a lot of sleepless nights. It should be, well, I am so full of bliss, you wouldn't believe it. Every day I wake up, I'm laughing my head off. I'm so happy. I don't walk up the hill, I skip up the hill. I can't wait to do my service, and I'm so happy about the situation I'm in. So then other people will think, wow, okay, this looks good. I want to take this up, That's why people want to be famous and rich, because they look at famous rich people and they think, wow, these guys look like they're really relishing life. I want to be like that, So that's what everyone's trying to do. And then suddenly they see the devotees on Harinam and they go, hey, hold on a second. These guys look really happy. I want to be like these guys. Isn't it? A lot of us, when we first saw the Harinam, we saw the devotees, it was very attractive. And we thought, yes, this is what I want. I want this uninhibited, carefree, blissful state of consciousness where you're free, uninhibited and free, and without fear. So that's the lifestyle we want to show people. And we do austerities, like we don't eat meat, fish, or eggs. We don't engage in illicit sex. We don't take intoxication. We don't gamble. But we don't see these as austerities. We see these as foundational to achieving real happiness. We don't deny that there is happiness in the material world, but it's just not over there where the mirage is. And the mirage is smoke these fags, buy this car, and hang out with this voluptuous woman who will be interested in you when you buy the car, don't worry. So we run over there, but that's not where the happiness is. But the happiness does exist, but it's just not over there where it's been advertised. But it does exist. The real happiness is already inside us, and we just have to become aware of it. And the real happiness is actually in love, and we know very little about love and what love is in the material world, actually. Although they sing about it, so many people are singing about love and falling in love. But actually, until you know who you are, until you know what you are, there is no question of love, no question at all. That's from our Liquid Beauty drama that we do, where the man falls in love with the woman, and the woman fasts and takes purgatives, and he comes back and she's all skinny, and he goes, "Oh, where's the beautiful one?" She goes, "Oh, I can take you to the beauty." And she takes him over to these pots. It's full of all the things that have come out of her body while she's been fasting and excreting substances from her body. You'll find the beauty you are looking for over there in those pots in the room. Jai. So I'll finish there then, unless there's any last questions or profound statements. Yes, Gangurvinda ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Gaura Premanandi. All of you ki jai.